All right, good morning. If you can hear me, let me know, and we're going to get started today. My name is Jay Roulette. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with clients around 1,000 a year, and also do speaker events and other things with legal aid societies. Considered a bit of an expert in the arena of low income housing, Section 8 housing, policies, procedures, data manuals. Very little I don't know. Got a reputation across YouTube for about 10 years, and you can also find us on our website, Section8Consulting.com. Now that we cleared the introductions, today's video is going to be about questions and answers. Many of you reach out to our office, because housing authorities don't always necessarily have the time to answer questions. Many of you have uh, rather sophisticated questions about your different case and other problems you may be having with the housing authority, your landlord, other policies, code of federal regulation, and other related issues. And I try my best to answer that. You'll notice also in the description that I put a linkage to our company. We charge a small amount of money for consults, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And for those of you that are struggling with housing, we offer casework. That's, a situation where you've exhausted all your possibilities. You've reached out to the housing authority. You reached out to HUD. You try to work with your local caseworker, counselor, or even the homeless shelter. And you seem to be spinning your wheels, or maybe you're just overwhelmed, or you're overwhelmed with a family member you're trying to help. And I think then and only then would be an appropriate time to reach out to our office to reduce that pressure, stress, and maybe those sleepless nights. Okay. While I wait for you guys to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to ask questions in this live video, what I'm going to do is talk about homelessness and how that's affecting our nation right now. It may not necessarily be a popular topic, but I think that when it comes to understanding the process and what you can potentially do, when I say homeless, I don't need you to necessarily be under a bridge or on a sidewalk or even living in a homeless shelter. Sometimes homelessness means imminent homelessness. It means that you're in a place you can't afford, rents have gotten too high, you may be facing eviction or other processes, or maybe you're just living in the car. And under that, I want to describe a system which can help you. Now, many of you believe that vouchers only come from the housing authority. Some of you believe vouchers come from HUD. So, what I'm going to do is describe the system in a basic way so most of you can understand it and who you might potentially want to reach out to depending on your circumstance. So, you have Congress that funds all the money that the nation receives, and they send that money down to HUD, which is Department of Urban Development. And those guys only have two functional jobs, and that is to disperse those funds to the state level, where you programs like the housing authority, whether they're individually owned or privately owned, they disperse funds to nonprofits, which may administer programs like Continuum of Care and other organizations. Okay, now HUD and your local housing authority are not the same. HUD is federal agents, and they work at the federal level. They don't issue vouchers. They investigate housing authorities for inappropriate activities. They educate you if you need education and need to ask questions. And they disperse those funds from Congress down to the housing authorities to fund your vouchers. Your housing authority most likely is going to be a local agency, which, if it's a big city, the city may own the housing authority. If it's a small town, it may be privately owned. Either way, the housing authority is the place where you apply. And when you apply, you have an opportunity to either get on a lottery where they will choose random people, or they may issue a voucher based on preferences, whether you're 62 and older, a United States veteran, whether or not you have a qualified mental disability or physical disability, whether you are low income or extreme low income, meaning you may be on a fixed income or Social Security disability or survivor benefits. You may be a domestic violence survivor from physical abuse, mental abuse, or even people trying to defraud you of your financials. Okay. So that's what the housing authority does. And then the third thing they offer is when they own buildings, the housing authority may not only issue vouchers, but if they own the building, they may put you in project-based housing. It means they own it. So not only are they going to be the person that issues the voucher, but they'll also be a landlord. And then, of course, the fourth tier that has nothing to do with the housing authority is your low-income housing, also known as affordable housing. and subsidy housing. That type of stuff is owned by private landlords and is usually sub-designated or funded under Code of Federal Regulation Title 24, which would be programs that fund Section 811, which is that subsection of Federal Code, Section 202. And 811 is for those that are 18 and to 61 that have disabilities and want to live in a subsidized property. So, what is the distinction between that voucher and living in a subsidy or affordable housing or low income housing? Well, vouchers will cover about 70%, and subsidies generally cover around 50%. So there's a situation sometimes you just have a working class family that cannot, based on their wages, afford a place, so a subsidy might be good. And for those of you that have much greater financial, your situation is more dire, then it would probably be more appropriate to approach getting a voucher, a housing choice voucher. But there can be any combination there. Well, we got a first question. Bill D, what is the rate that your firm asks to be an advocate for helping to figure things out and helping through the process? Well, you can find that on the linkage. Let me just give that out real quick. The reason I'm not going to advocate specific prices in this video is because the prices do change, and somebody could watch this video years from now, and then they may be under the misunderstanding that that prices would still be current. So what I'm going to do is just recopy this information in here, and then you can just check it out for yourself there, Bill. And I'm attaching it. So back to the homeless aspects while I wait for you guys to ask the questions you'd like. And look, if you want to stand by and be shy, that's fine. Just make sure that you ask your questions before this 15 to 20 minute video is over, okay? All right. Now, in the old days, for the existence of housing authorities, you used to be able, as a homeless person, to go there and get emergency housing or emergency housing voucher. Through the pandemic and what it created a bigger burden on housing authorities. So they moved a lot of the emergency housing vouchers to a program called Continuum of Care. And what Continuum of Care is, it's basically a program issued by the feds that allows a person to be assessed. Assessing, it means you're not filling out an application, but you're verbally giving your answers to that person. Now, in order to be assessed, you would have to go to what they call CES, or Coordinated Entry System. The coordination is that of city and local resources, figuring out how best to, one, ask you questions to determine your need, and B, be able to issue a variety of vouchers they may have. These vouchers are a little bit different than those of the ones that are issued by the housing authority itself. So the first type of thing they may offer you is just a direct referral. And referrals are a situation where they don't believe you fundamentally would benefit from receiving a voucher, so they'll probably pawn you off by giving a phone number to a different agency that may be able to meet your immediate need. Number two would be Shelter Plus, where they refer you to a shelter, but it gives you additional time to kind of pull yourself together. Beyond that, the actual vouchers would be rapid rehousing. For those of you that have been shaken by something within the period of time through the pandemic or some other natural disasters happen to you where things fall apart, this would allow you an opportunity to receive a rapid rehousing voucher, which would pay most of the rent for a duration of time. So it's not a permanent voucher, but a voucher that may cover anywhere from a couple of months up to 2 years of rent while you get back on your feet and then you exit the system. Now, beyond rapid rehousing, you would have permanent supportive housing. Now, permanent supportive housing serves, in my opinion, two different types of communities that may benefit greatly from it. Okay. The first would be those that have grave mental health issues, and them having a permanent supportive housing system with wraparound resources, meaning Meals on Wheels and other things in place, including mental health. People come by to check on you, would be a good situation. The other community of people that may benefit from that are those that are seniors or others that are very elderly. And so permanent supportive housing has some parallels with what we call project-based housing, but they're not the same. And then, of course, the final and the best of the bunch would be the emergency housing voucher. The emergency housing voucher, I must tell you, because of the word emergency is written in there, it implies that, yes, you get the voucher quickly, but it does not imply that you're going to get it instantly, okay? Now, wrapped into those three particular vouchers and two other options I mentioned for what we call Continuum of Care program, CES or Coordinated Entry System, where you either call them or you go and visit them at a direct assessment location, would afford you an opportunity to them to ask you questions. You score high enough, and those points are put into a system called HIMS, which is the Homeless Management Information Network or system. And that system is kind of like an algorithm. And the more questions you answer that match what they're looking for to give you a voucher will prompt that HIMS system to kick out a voucher. So obviously more points means a better chance to get better vouchers or the more preferred one. Now, if you score high enough to receive an emergency housing voucher, but they don't quite have the funding part, they have the option to back you down to a lower tier voucher, either temporarily. And I know through the pandemic years, a couple of years that was going on, they could also, if they had federal funding, give you a hotel voucher. And sometimes that's still available through the community. I'm going to take a sip of my Red Bull, and then I'm going to answer a few of these questions I see below from Stephanie and Lewis. I'm going to let you guys know I was struggling with some kidney problems, and it isn't related to my energy drink. And yesterday, we discovered that it was kidney stones again. And I got to tell you, that was painful. If you're a man, you would know what it means to be kicked between the legs. Well, imagine if you had to go to use the bathroom and you felt like you were peeing kitchen knives. That's about how it felt. So I'm a little bit, well, I'm not as good as I could be today, but we're going to get through this video. All right, Stephanie Kennedy. She goes on to say that she needs that. It sounds good, Stephanie. Now, let's talk about timelines. A lot of you, we live in a community and a time and an age where a lot of us have an Amazon expectation of everything. We want what we want. We want it now. We're in a hurry. We don't give a damn about the process. We don't consider the things that have to go on in order to complete the process. So I would tell you this. In most cases, CES, Coordinated Entry System, it's a manual, which is called SPDAT, which is your Service Prioritization Decision Assistance tool. Now, that manual is what they train their people, and in that manual has the questions and answers. So it's very useful when you have that. And I'm going to give that to y'all. I'm going to give y'all an older version of it that'll help you. Okay. Now let's go back to those timelines because I'm wondering around a bit in my conversation. A reasonable expectation for most states would be to be able to get assessed, pretty much know what they're going to do that day, and they're probably going to take between 2 and 4 weeks. Now, if you live in the state of California, the state of New York, or the state of Florida, that process can be anywhere from 30 to 90 days, okay? Administratively, they have to sit down, figure out whether they have the proprietary budget to be able to produce that, and of course, make sure that all the things they have assessed you for that they can verify, and clearing all those challenges and tests. Then you would be meeting with a housing navigator about 2 weeks in. And then after that, you begin some type of housing search and you begin a standard amount of time to look. Okay. If you don't quite completely understand that process, I would advise researching it first. If that doesn't yield the education or clues that you need in order to get through it, then it would be perfectly normal probably to reach out to an office like ours. You don't have to hire our company. I mean, anybody that's well versed in CES or BOSS or BOSS system should be able to get you through this. And trust me, getting through it and having the extra knowledge as well as the manual will mean the difference between probably you being able to get one of those vouchers compared to almost everybody else that day failing to get it. Okay. You have to have a technical advantage, even if you're living under a bridge. All right, so on to the questions. Mama Moonshine. I like that. That's the interesting name of the day, and I like that. Thank you from Minnesota. How are y'all doing today out there in Minnesota? And good morning. Moving on, Brian Guerreros. What kind of examples of reasonable accommodations would the PHA accept for porting a voucher if you cannot live for a whole year? And well, Brian, I have a list of things there, but I won't be able to address that here in this video because this is definitely not a portability video. You might want to reach out to my office about that. Stephanie Kennedy says, yep. Good morning, Lady Teal Johnson. Another interesting name. I like it. It has that presidential wife ring to it. Hi, she says, and I've received a congratulation letter from Section 8 back in May. And I sent in all my paperwork and haven't heard nothing. Should I go back up there? Well, you pulled out in May. Well, that would be, in my opinion, stellar timing. Typically, housing authorities, when they receive your pre-application, they can respond anywhere from 30 days to 15 years later. Okay. It just depends. One thing you don't want to do is badger housing authorities or their employees. The main reason is because a lot of them aren't that friendly to start with. And there's two reasons to that. One, they're probably not paid very well or not highly educated in many situations. And then that creates that situation where they're just kind of condescending and rude to deal with. The other is you have to realize they encounter a lot of people with mental health, drug problems, alcohol problems that present badly. So you take a good housing authority employee, and they're ruined by the type of clients that constantly badger and do other things to them. And so they go from a caring person to a person that's just nasty to deal with. Kind of like a prison guard. They're always nice the first year they guard the inmates, but after they get mistreated by the inmates, they turn into, pretty bad folks. So, and that's just a extreme example. Let's go on to some other questions here. Guys, I'm not going to be covering reasonable accommodations for this video, okay? Because I know you guys are asking about that, and I will make a video regarding that matter, but that's a highly technical situation as far as federal rules. Mama Moonshine goes on, what is a reasonable expectation for a building with 9 floors where disabled wheelchair dependent residents need the elevator to access their units? What's reasonable for the repair? Again, Mama, I would actually just reach out to my office that because that may be a federal issue or even state, depending on the situation. So the question asked is pretty broad, but I'm pretty sure I could probably address that if I had more information. Hollywood Fest Boulevard, another curious name for another person with a question. I've been on Section 8 for 5 years. I started working for 4 months now. I haven't reported it yet. Am I in trouble? Well, I would suggest to you that you are in trouble. You're required under HAP contract with the housing authority to report income every 30 days. I would suggest at this point that you should go into the housing authority, plead your case, and have a very logical excuse as to why you would hide your income for several months. Okay. And if you're lucky, they'll understand and then forgive you. If not, they're going to terminate you and you'll have a 5-year ban nationwide. Okay. Or something near that. Okay. And by the way, guys, I use the word okay a lot in my videos. We all have pet peeves. That's one of mine. I'm working on not using the word okay so much. If you don't like the word okay, then you can watch another channel. I'm only bringing it up because somebody was bitching and moaning about it. Well, it's tough shit, okay? I'm here to educate. If you don't care for everything about my vocabulary, you can always go down to Bob and Sally's Fidget Spinner channel. One day they're experts at being party clowns. The next day they're going to pretend to be a consultant, and you can get your fucking advice there, okay? All right, moving on from that. A line very true regarding housing employees. Maximum Yarnage. I like that. Man, y'all got some really, really good names, YouTube names for your questions. Texas Spread. Are there any states that are giving immediate vouchers right now? I'm also playing several states or just one. Well, I would suggest to you that, with coordinated entry and continuum of care, that you would be able to, a lot of states do have vouchers, but it depends when you say right now. There's no situation where you're going to reach out to continuum of care programs for vouchers or the housing authority where they simply roll the chair to the printer and print out a voucher. Okay. So I don't know quite the context in which you're asking that, but if you're needing a voucher in 30, 90 or 4 months, that's certainly a possibility. All right, back to the homeless aspect of this. So as many of you heard, in Maui, Hawaii, they burned down a large portion of houses and killed a little over 60 people. And looks like the state of Hawaii is going to have a big dilemma and possibly a little homeless wave of people. I would recommend if you are from Hawaii and or any of those islands that were affected by the wildfire that ravaged that area, that you reach out to FEMA and the Red Cross. There are certain circumstances under federal rules in which a natural disaster happens, and you will be given absolute priority above and beyond everybody else. And that means something that most of you don't understand or even heard of. Housing authorities, even when they're closed, they've been closed 20 years, they'll always hold vouchers quietly. They call them special use vouchers. That means they're hidden. Even if they tell you, hey, we've given out all the vouchers we're going to give out, we're closed, we haven't been open since 1981, they still will have vouchers which are special use. And that would be a good time for those of you from the state of Hawaii, and those islands to reach out about special use vouchers. And you can get those by asking for a direct referral from FEMA and Red Cross, because I think that's important. There aren't a lot of options when you're clearly on an island, okay? You can't exactly drive to the next state. And of course, I'm sure that having to deal with a flight that may cost thousands is not a good way to have to deal with it either. All right, so I think we covered that particular part, guys. Are there any other questions? And what I'm going to do, if y'all are patient, guys, this Sunday, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to make a video specifically regarding combinations again. Now, you realize I just made one, and I think I answered a lot of those questions, but I will make a secondary one discussing further. Because I got to tell you, if I had to make a separate manual, a really big one, about any subject matter that I deal with concerning Section 8 housing, I would say that accommodations and modifications deserves its own manual. It's such an expansive topic, what can be approved, what's not approved, and what it covers, that I would say it's probably one of the second most expansive topics out there in relation to housing, period. So, well, guys, it looks like I've gotten very quiet. Let me link you up now. So we were talking about homelessness. We were talking about service prioritization tools. We were talking about emergency housing and vouchers. These are the two links you're going to need. Number one, this link is going to be to a service prioritization tool, which is a good read. Reading this is going to help you fundamentally understand the system. A lot of you guys believe that if you want an emergency housing voucher, that if you go in and tell your hard luck story, or maybe you imply that you need some sympathy, or you want a little bit of empathy, that's not going to buy you jack. Read the manual. It's going to describe for the reasons in which they'll grant it, the type of questions they're going to have, and the specific ways you might want to answer. It also has a scoring metric. Now, keep in mind that service prioritization tools are a little bit different everywhere you go, but they all, about 80 to 90% of this manual is good to cover most states, because these are the relative topics they're going to be asking you. The second link is going to cover direct assessment locations. Now, this is issued or mandated by HUD. Now, that doesn't mean just because it's HUD's list that it's going to be accurate or everything's going to work in it. A lot of shit's outdated. Look, HUD's got one of the largest websites there is. I mean, they got more pages than probably Walmart for products. And look, they don't do, sadly, HUD doesn't spend a lot of time on his website. A lot of it's dated. And so is the answers and the stuff that they try to educate about in there. And so you cannot always trust that HUD.gov is giving you the most current information, okay? Other than that, I take no issue with HUD. I actually like them, and I like Marissa Fudge that runs it. Beyond that, let me go ahead and give you all those links that you're looking for. All right, 2 links. Oh, that's not links. That's links to my company. Let's try that one more time. Now, I know that seemed pretty intentional, but it wasn't, okay? Y'all give me a fair shake today. I'm still in a bit of pain with these kidney stones. Okay, so one's going to be the SPDAT or service prioritization tool. The other going to be direct contact points, guys. That would get you through about 70% of what you need. If you're still struggling or you're unwilling to gamble with this, maybe reach out to somebody that handles this kind of stuff like I do, or our company, or another. It doesn't have to be me, okay? I'm not here to get anything from anybody. I'm just telling you that's what you're going to need to further. You read through that, and then you can make some informed decisions on your own as to the best way to handle getting an emergency housing voucher or address your homelessness. I know working with clients, we've managed to get a large portion of them off to the street within so the page is not found. Okay, let me try to paste the links individually. You can bet YouTube has something to do with this. All right, link number 1. Let's try it again. There we go. Link number 2 is coming. Let's do them individually. This is for those of you that are homeless, trying to get help. It's a service prioritization tool, and of course, the direct assessment locations. Bill, thank you for thanking me. So rarely get thanked for the job I do. In fact, a lot of my clients get what they need, and then I never hear from them again. Kind of a shitty way to do business, but I guess that's the world we live in. Louis Mateus, are you allowed to have or be on 2 separate waiting lists at once? Well, you can be on as many waiting lists as you want. What you cannot do is accept more than one voucher. You cannot accept and use more than one voucher. You could be on 2,000 waiting lists if you want to, but I would not recommend attempting to accept that voucher and then use more than one. I've had multiple families I've worked with where every adult in the household got an offer. Unfortunately, they could only accept one despite them individually receiving vouchers. And so you can get the offer, but if you sign the paperwork for that voucher, then that's the voucher you're accepting. If you accept more than one, then you're going to get what we so quaintly call it Section 9. And so let's talk about Section 9 real quick. Now, many of the Section 9 is hard to find in the federal code. That's because with Section 9, when you commit a federal crime, they put you in a federal prison and they pay your rent. So you get a full lease. The term may be anywhere from 1 year to lifetime. You also get free meals, 3 hots and a cot, as they call it, and your rent's paid. So it's an excellent lease. Fortunately, they would not give you the keys to your apartment there, and the accommodations are usually very small. They provide 1 mattress, 1 seat, and a tiny window. So I would not recommend pursuing that type of emergency housing, but they'd be happy to arrest you if you need that. And you can retire there. I hear they have pretty decent medical care as well. So it's like having everything rolled in. The problem is you cannot leave Section 9 until they're done with you, okay? So please, guys, don't be so desperate or stupid to accept Section 9. I recommend most of you just accept Section 8. And by the way, that was only a joke. There's no Section 9. There probably is, but it's not related to being in a federal prison, okay? But, I made a video once about that, and I actually held people captive for about 15 minutes before they discovered it was all bullshit about the Section 9 thing, but at least we all had a good laugh, Sometimes you have to keep it spicy. All right, guys. Well, I've enjoyed talking with y'all, and hopefully you'll find some use in those links. If you're still struggling with your housing, you can reach out to us or any qualified individual in the nation that does consulting. And you know what? I want to see if one of my cats, now many of y'all know I'm a cat lover, and one point I had up to 32 of them, and I think little mama or bunny is floating around the office here. Well, sadly they didn't make it this video. Maybe next time I'll bring little mama in. But those of you that are pet lovers, I'm an immense pet lover, and I often include them in my videos. All right, guys. Well, I've got to get going. I've got appointments to do here in about a half hour. So I've enjoyed talking with you. We'll do accommodations and modifications under federal law on Sunday, possibly Wednesday. We'll see. All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye for now.